Action. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your best possible use of a Monday evening, which is objectively and unequivocally John with Jack. I'm the Jack you're looking for, and with me tonight is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, the owner and operator of the Random Encounter Show, standing right behind the gentleman on camera.
Oh, okay.
Deathstalker 5.
Boom.
That's right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Deathstalker, man, it has been a long time pleasure. You are one of the first D&D YouTubers I followed from Jump Street. It's been years now. And you're most definitely, I think you're the first solo gamer channel that I followed on YouTube early on when I found the community. It's kind of ironic that in the digital age, I spent many years and it never occurred to me to even look at Dungeons and Dragons and RPG stuff online. It was something I did in person with people exclusively. And then, so it wasn't until 2010 or later that I became hip to even like D&D YouTube. And then one day I stumbled across Artichoke Dip, who you'll remember from back in the day, and his solo adventures. And I was like, oh my God, I've been doing solo RPG my whole life. And I was in the closet. I was scared to talk about it. That's like outcast amongst outcasts, nerd of the nerds, solo RPG. So let's talk your origin story, Deathstalker. How did you get started in RPGs? I have heard this story before, but I definitely want the audience to get a glimpse of it.
Oh boy, where do you want to start? It came from, I would say, an early on obsession and love of fantasy, specifically like medieval fantasy. As a child, I was very much into King Arthur and the knights, and while other kids wanted G.I. Joes and such, I wanted, the little castle sets with the plastic miniature knights and such. And throughout all
that. I really do get that.
Yeah, just throughout the getting into elementary school and finding fellow nerds like myself, even though I didn't know I was a nerd.
By the way, we were a nerd. I mean,
we live very rurally, so it wasn't that we had a whole lot of civilization around us to really inform us what we were or not.
Right? Yeah. There wasn't all that much of a culture to reflect yourself off of.
No. It's sort of very isolated you got into some kind of thing. You were sort of isolated from the people who weren't into that thing around you, but there was no big communities of anything really. But getting into elementary school, I found some other friends, and we of course, kids, we got some likes and stuff we like. And one of the friends I met was an actual nerd. His name was Jordan. He was African American, but his whole family were nerds. You never saw anything like this. I'm talking about, they all look like Steve Urkel. Suspenders, pocket protectors, round glasses.
Do they do math problems for fun? Is math?
But I met him and we got to talking, and he knew about computers. He knew about fantasy gaming and all these things I was interested in. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'll be your best friend for the rest of your life. And eventually he brought Talisman 2nd edition to school. It's way over there. You can see it back there. There's my box set. We got into that first.
That's a nice as you can see, I like to show mine off as well. Although I need to like push the table back and get more of it in the picture. That's it. Oh yeah, now you can see even more of my glory behind me.
So we got into Talisman, and I had a Hero Quest set, and but the ultimate goal and the big thing to us was always Dungeons and Dragons. It's like the ultimate fantasy experience, and it really was then. We're talking, very early 90s at this point. I was a kid of the 80s and 90s. But it was very much Dungeons and Dragons was the ultimate sort of fantasy thing you could get into at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was a quick road from there that we decided we want to get Dungeons and Dragons. But my parents were resistant against buying Dungeons and Dragons. I guess they were leftovers from the Satanic Panic.
Really? Did they have any sort of vocal objections or explain it to you, or was it just, nah, you're not doing that?
No, you don't. It was just one of them things that you don't need to get into. I
Right,
heard that
right.
several times.
Hey, can I get this new Iron Maiden album? I don't think you need to get into that, honey.
Yeah, that's just one of those kind of things. But eventually, we all saved allowance money and lunch money and all the little work scrapes and dimes we could. And Jordan's older brothers sold us their first edition stuff because second edition had come in and they didn't want the first edition anymore. So they pawned it off on us.
Well, having recently started playing first edition again, I gotta say, I think it is actually the superior rule set.
Yeah, first edition AD&D is the best iteration of the D&D rules ever made.
There are many people who I am friends with who will agree with that statement unreservedly. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I admit, I think my favorite is still the BECME Rules Encyclopedia, right? But not because it's better, because it's my favorite. I have a lot of fond memories and nostalgia built into that.
Well, when we talk about first edition AD&D, that also incorporates the basic D&D along with it. They were both the same game. First edition just sort of standardized it more for tournament play and brought in more options for players and games masters to use at the table.
Nah, I would disagree on that. Even by their own statements and marketing at the time, they said they were distinctly two different games and were not meant to work together seamlessly, which is why they made no effort. While it clearly was obviously the same DNA, they really did market and operate them separately as two separate games.
Well, they operated two separate things, but just like Gary Gygax said in the Dungeon Master Guide, he says this is to go along with basic D&D in which to create your worlds, fill your worlds out more, etc. There was no real mechanical change in the game. Still on the two hit charts with Daco in the background, and it really just added more, but you weren't really playing a whole different game than what basic was.
That is true. That is true. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons most definitely has a bunch of clarifications and expansions.
Right, like I said, they standardized the play, but that was mostly due to them wanting to do the tournaments at conventions. That's where AD&D really got its, goal from, is we're going to use this to run tournaments. So that's why a lot of the first adventure modules made for AD&D are actually tournament modules.
Yeah, that's I have one of the only module series I've actually played in my life is the A series when I was a kid, and I recall that was one of, if not the first, it was one of the earliest tournament series specifically for that. So you had a phase, you inherited first edition books in the late 80s, early 90s once second edition came out. How long was AD&D the main thing, the main course?
When it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, it's always been. I stayed with AD&D. I still got all my AD&D stuff is right over there, but you can see the orange spines and stuff behind me. But it's I stuck with that because my parents at the time, they got divorced and we moved to another place. And out of all places in the area we moved to, which was even more rural, I found the AD&D campaign going on in the basement of a Baptist church.
That kind of shoots the whole satanic argument in the foot, doesn't it?
Right.
I mean, pardon me. I know that there are tons of people out there that Baptist church is exactly where you would find Satan, but that's not the kind of conversation I'm here to have.
No, and we weren't very much involved with the church anyway. It's even crazier story when I get into it. I asked around when we first moved there, kids at the school and stuff, who plays D&D. And finally one kid said, the church I go to, the youth group plays D&D on Friday nights. So I'm like, get me in. So I show up and the guy who runs the youth group's not a minister, not even affiliated with the church. He's
Okay.
he's he's a Chabad rabbi. I'm not making this up. But for his work, he was a social worker for our county. And so that's what he would do is get the kids together and play D&D in this church basement on Friday nights.
Brilliant. Awesome.
So really strange story, but I loved it. He was a fantastic dungeon master. And he ran just fantastic campaigns with AD&D. Greyhawk, baby, all the way.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. And again, I kind of lament. I don't know. I have a lot of fond memories and nostalgia with second edition, but I don't look back on that time, those rules specifically, as fondly as I used to. It's kind of same with third edition, But
well, funny thing is I've never once got into second edition. It just completely bypassed me. We were playing AD&D first edition. I really had there was nobody around playing. I mean, there were the older kids were playing second edition, but they didn't want us young kids hanging around. You already know how that goes. But for my group and for what I did, at this time I was doing a lot of solo from the first edition Dungeon Master Guide and other resources. So that was my main way of playing was solo.
But is that how that got started? It was that blatant Appendix A right in the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide?
Right. It talked about, how to generate dungeons in different locations and how to do it for solo play. And I said, wow, I like this idea. I want to play D&D more than I'm playing. So at home, I started rolling up dungeons. I was rolling up creatures. Then it expanded to rolling up social encounters and towns and things, using the phone book for NPC names, etc. So it just became a whole hobby where I was just grabbing things from here and there to use for solo gaming on the table without even really realizing what I was doing. It was just a necessity thing.
See, I really resonate with that because that parallels my experience. I grew up in small town New Jersey, and throughout my whole childhood until I got at least to high school, I didn't have anything resembling a regular play group. And I learned how to play solo the same way because I really just couldn't get enough play otherwise. But it was one of those, I always made excuse. I didn't really talk about it, make excuses about, I'm just like play testing the module I'm designing or something.
Yeah,
like that. Or I'm testing out this character build, I hid behind excuses like that, but I've really been doing, solo for practically as long as I've been gaming itself, which is 47 years now.
Right. So solo was something that I picked up from AD&D, but my next two RPGs that I've never played with a group, they've only been solo. It's probably stuff that most people's never heard of. We got Dragon Quest 2nd Edition and Swordbearer, and they're two fantastic RPG systems. I like them much better than I like the D&D system. So it's...
Am I confusing it with something else? Is Dragon Quest one of the games that was derivative related to RuneQuest and basic role playing that kind of system?
No.
Early. Okay.
No.
What is Dragon Quest? Tell me a little bit about that one.
Well, you have to. You watch the channel all the time. We got a nice video covering.
I know
Dragon Quest.
I know we've talked about it, but come on, man, we got an audience here, and I want you to sell them on Dragon Quest.
An audience, yeah, Swordbearer. I don't like it. Dragon Quest all the way, but Dragon Quest came from SPI. I believe 1980, if I'm not mistaken, was the first edition, and it won the Origin Award. Second edition came out shortly afterwards. It was not really much of an edition change, other than they modified a few of the mechanics and things to make it a more balanced game. And it was really taken off there for a while. Then TSR pulled a mafia move on SPI and put them out of business. And then TSR famously tried to do Dragon Quest 3rd Edition, but they TSR'd it and it was forgettable.
Right. Yeah. Now, what era of time was that? Because so much of what they ended up doing after Gygax left in the 80s was ultimately forgettable.
Yeah, I would think that's somewhere around 84, if I'm not mistaken. When they acquired SPI.
Yeah, I think that's when around the time the shenanigans started. That was during Gary's Hollywood years. So
Yeah. So it was
Velma!
Velma. Little inside joke.
No, yes, yeah, you got to be in the Random Encounter show in the private club to really get that joke. But
Ooh, the Rogues Gallery.
he can now attest that Velma is in fact a real person, or
She is
at
a
least
real
that's what we
person.
want you to think.
Yeah, I mean, I can attest that I've seen something that he called Velma. Other than that, I can't.
It's my pet stingray, Velma.
That's not the same Velma you showed me earlier.
Wait, that is not. That is not. And the other one was not a real doll product. Keep your mind out of the gutter. Oh,
Yeah, that's it.
I lurk in the shadows. She does lurk in the
She
shadows.
doesn't. She does. I can attest to that. We've been calling out her name for over a year, and this is the first time I ever saw Velma. So
Yeah. She is elusive like most fey creatures.
there you go. But
Now,
yeah, Dragon Quest Second Edition. It does share a lot of similarities with RuneQuest, but this was SPI's own. I would say it's somewhere between RuneQuest and AD&D in play
got it.
style and mechanics.
Got it. Now, Swordbearer is a much more. I kind of remember you talking about this one more distinctly because it was such an oddball kind of a game. Tell us about
Very odd.
Swordbearer.
Swordbearer. It's again, it's got a lot of similarities with AD&D, but it's got its own D100 system that's just its own thing. But the one thing about Swordbearer is they've cut out, when you look at like RuneQuest, Rollmaster, Dragon Quest, and such, they've cut out a whole lot of the extraneous mechanisms in which to get your results and just simplified it down to where basically you can roll and just keep the game moving at a quicker pace. But it has a magic system. It's the magic system of Swordbearer. It's the best magic system I've ever seen in any role-playing game ever.
Why is that? What makes it so good? What puts it over the top?
You can forget the whole remembering spells and this and that, the different systems that came along with tabletop gaming. This one, characters had to capture what are known as nodes. Basically, they're power centers. However you want to say, it's hard to explain, but there's some sort of power nodes, power centers, and they're all aligned with different elements. And your character can attempt to capture those nodes. And in using the nodes, that's how they power their spell. But combinations of different elements give you different results for different spells cast through them.
I can dig that.
It's really good. It's really good for a magic system.
Yeah, there was for my part, I own one of the earlier editions of Ars Magica, and that takes the cake for great mix of crunchy but versatile in a magic system. And that was it was not, it's not like their classic storyteller system. It's a D10 add on a stat and skill based
Right.
thing.
Give me one
they
second.
really
I have to represent.
Yeah, represent. So, and Ars Magica was great because
we
there
gotta
was
represent here. We got both of them.
yeah. I remember the YouTube video describing that original box set, and I was like, that is so weird looking. And I totally would have bought that had I seen that in the store.
I bought it on, I found it at a flea market around, I want to say 93, 94. And I picked it up for just because of the box art. It looks like an 80s cartoon.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. You pick that up for $1 or something at the time, and you go,
I paid nothing for it.
Even if it's terrible, I'm getting my money's worth out of it.
Yeah, but I was surprised to find it. Look at the back.
Man,
that's it, buddy.
That is plain Jane, baby. When was the last time you saw a product that didn't have some sort of copy on the back?
Not often.
Not often. That was what you called low budget or indie back in the day.
And the game is Dennis Sustier and Arnold Hendrick. If you don't know who they are, that Heritage USA, they were behind a whole line of miniatures for Fantasy Ranges, but they also did games like Barbarian Prince. And
Oh yeah,
they,
I've never played
yeah,
that one, but I
they
have
did
heard
your
of it.
Dwarf Star games like Star Smuggler, Barbarian Prince, etc. So same crew. This is a lot of people run down this game. I've seen somebody in the chat. They don't know what you're talking about. This game is fantastic.
Dragon Quest, yes. Sword Bearer, no. I think he is saying he has heard of them, not
Oh, okay. I was about to
heard of
say,
them
don't run
and
down
not heard of
Swordbearer.
them. Because
Deathstalker 5 will tell you to come over here and meet him in the front yard over some Swordbearer.
yeah, Jeremy is too great a respecter of classical games, particularly pulp style fantasy, to be disrespecting on
Well, I hope I've
Sword Bearer.
caused somebody to go investigate. Hopefully he
Yes.
goes and investigates. Go investigate. You're not going to be sorry about Swordbearer. There's a print on demand on Amazon, and the PDFs are on drive-through
Ooh, well then.
with a second
Okay.
edition.
So fantasy is the main core. I'm a fantasy guy first and foremost myself. At what point did you go delve into other genres, be they horror or sci-fi, in the RPG sphere? What were your first moves in those areas?
In my adulthood, what drove me to begin looking at science fiction games, and this was somewhere around 2016 or 17 when Mongoose did their second edition of Traveler. I saw that announced and I was like, Traveler, that's one I've been thinking about getting into, but it's sci-fi and I'm a fantasy guy.
Right.
But then I thought to myself, I said, all my favorite TV shows are basically science fiction shows. I said, why don't I look into some sci-fi gaming? And honestly, that's became almost a bigger part of what I do at the table than fantasy nowadays.
Really? So it's really kind of eclipsed the fantasy aspects. Because why do you think that is? Why has sci-fi taken over market share?
I think it's after decades of playing fantasy. I still love it. I still play fantasy. It's still fantasy, still my big love. But science fiction offers a whole lot of different ways to approach the campaigns and scenarios that you really wouldn't be able to pull off with fantasy. So it still feels really fresh.
In a way, are you saying that you feel like there's still way more versatile, varied scenarios you can play out in the sci-fi sphere as opposed to fantasy stories that would work in sci-fi that just wouldn't work in fantasy?
Well, with science fiction, you're not bound to medieval fantasy. If you want to go to take Traveler, for example, you could land on a low technology world and they're still using swords, shields, chainmail, and horses.
Right.
So, yeah. so I mean, there's no boundaries on the game so much to keep it cohesive like there is for fantasy. One thing that ruins fantasy to me just right off the bat is adding science fiction elements to a fantasy game. I'm out at that point.
So then you weren't a fan of that particular section in the back of the first edition DMG,
no, and I was not a fan of the
versions.
No, and I was not a fan of the science fiction add-ons to Greyhawk.
But powered armor gives you an AC of -8.
Yeah, and it also makes me say, what the heck are we playing?
Now, I'm with you. For some reason, I hated and was aesthetically offended by psionics for the same reason. That was injecting too much science into my fantasy. I didn't like that. If I wanted to play sci-fi, I'll play sci-fi, right?
Right. That to me is also the suspension of disbelief and a logic to the game world. I like my game worlds and campaigns to have at least a bare logic to them. And all of a sudden, we're interjecting spaceships and lasers and stuff like this. The rest of the world loses logic because whoever has the spaceship and lasers rules this medieval world, period.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. So, yeah, no expedition to the Barrier Peaks for you. No. That was another one that everybody has said how classic that is and how awesome. I've owned a copy since high school, and I've read it. I have no interest in running it. It just
Yeah, buddy.
I've
I
never
got a
read
rep
it.
keep on the borderland. We're the boys from the borderland, buddy. That's where
That's
we
right.
are.
Well, yeah, it's Weston's T. Weston, yeah, 100% expedited.
That's Thaddeus Maximus.
This
That's
is
Thaddeus Maximus. Yeah,
Thaddeus
you got the
Maximus. Glad to see you, bro.
yeah. You
Glad to
got
have
the
you here.
random encounter army showing up. Get ready for your channel to go crazy.
Oh, good. I could use this kind of crazy, man. I need these people. And now I have to highlight my pun force, bro. Here, can you run a Dragon Quest unrelated Japanese video game series campaign in Dragon Quest classic tabletop game?
Yeah, why not? I just got done messing with Dragon Quest on the MSX computer, and I didn't see anything where you couldn't run it with Dragon Quest, the RPG tabletop version. They're not related in any kind of way, by the way, but it'll run
There's
you
no
whatever
reason.
kind of fantasy you want. It'll roll it.
It's just like any other RPG. We could run Dragon Quest inside of Dragon Quest.
Right. But the real question is, can you run Dragon Quest 2 with Dragon Quest Second Edition?
I don't know. I'm not that well educated on
The
either
answer is
version
yes.
of Dragon Quest.
The answer is yes. We're hobby gamers. We can run anything with anything. Just give us some time.
I have yet to eat a guest, Michael. I have never eaten a guest, and I am 90-ish percent, 90+% confident I never will.
But have you ever tasted human flesh? Think on that carefully. Anyway, it's
there was that one trip to Korea, but they said that was dog meat.
No, that's where you got to go to Vietnam and Cambodia.
Oh, True Mad Tinkerer says, but some of the foundational swords and sorcery stories are science fiction. Like what ones? What's ultimately a science fiction? Is that like H.P. Lovecraft when you get right down to it? While it's scary, it's ultimately science fiction. And then,
well, I don't really consider H.P. Lovecraft fantasy.
What's that?
I really don't consider H.P. Lovecraft stories fantasy, except that weird dream of Kadaf thing where the cats were flying to the moon.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not fantasy, but
it's science fantasy.
Argue the case that it's sci-fi. Is H.P. Lovecraft horror-themed science fiction, even though we know the science is way off base now, but
yeah, I don't consider H.P. Lovecraft. It's got some sci. I'd say science fantasy or historical sci. I don't know how to put it, but the science fiction elements are there.
I get you. It's science fiction in the same way that Star Wars is science fiction. It's not really about the science. It's sometimes
that's why. Yeah, that's why I say you got science fiction and then you have science fantasy. Star Wars is a great example of science fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's really about the characters, the dynamics, and the aesthetic of it. That's I guess that's what space opera is meant to encompass.
Yeah, space opera. When I think of sci-fi, I think of things like Alien. Even though it doesn't have a logical science basis all the time, it still sticks more toward the hard science than it does for the fantasy elements.
Mm-hmm. 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 So now you play sci-fi mostly still to this day. Is it still Traveler, or are there other games that you've taken a shine to in the time since?
No, I've got Traveler behind me, but the second edition Traveler from Mongoose is a fantastic game. But it quickly became what I seen just as a huge cash grab for Mongoose, where they were printing 10,000 books a month and spreading the rules all the way through, the section. And it's like, I can't keep up with this. So I moved over to the Cepheus engine, which is sort of the OGL of Traveler, if you will. And
Right, right.
I got into Cepheus and Paul Elliott's work. He does a lot of great work there. As you know, I worked for him as an editor for on
I
Cepheus
was about
University.
to segue into that is that you ended up becoming an editor for the Cepheus. Is it the core book that
It
you're
is
the editor
Cepheus
for?
Universal, and I really wanted to get in on that project because it would be one of the first times where somebody really went like an encyclopedic treatment. We're going to put all the base rules we can in a single book and let you do what you want to with them.
That's tempting. See, I haven't been much in the sci-fi sphere myself, and I've been. I think you may have just convinced me to splurge on Cepheus Universal.
We'll get together and I'll roll us up a co-op campaign. I did that with Artichoke Dip. You talked.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
me and Art. I used to run Traveler with Artichoke Dip as a co-op where I use my solo tools and so hit me up. We'll get on Discord or whatever and we'll run a few little adventures for
that's awesome
sci-fi.
because my Calorath game that Jeremy plays in is set up in that same co-op style. I'm hosting it on Discord. I'm the host, right? It's we're using stuff that I generated for the most part, but I've got several players participating now as they can. I just had Hunter, the Ultra American TTRPG, or we were just playing on Sunday morning.
Yeah, I'll be glad to do it, and I do it in a wild style. We're just going to turn webcams on, and we co-op. We generate the game as we go. It's not like we're
Yep.
doing it on our own or anything, but
You got it
we.
exactly. That's exactly what Calorath is. And you might be interested to know that the same designer, Castle Grief, has the Arathi sector, which is his sci-fi expansion of that game. So it's kind of funny that I just talked about how I normally don't like sci-fi mixed in with my fantasy, but this is the one time I'm looking forward to it. So
Right,
I'm
and
such a huge Cal.
and for solo players and for those that's interested in maybe Cepheus or Traveler, if you like that aliens, outland, sort of hard science fiction, blue collar workers in space vibe, Hostile is the way to go. And there's a lot of material made for it. Paul's done for solo gamers as well.
That's awesome. More recently, I haven't done it solo because I haven't read the rules in depth, but I've gotten to play in some Mothership group games. Have you had any exposure to that game or system yet?
I haven't ran into Mothership yet. There's one thing I'll say about myself is, as weird as it may sound, I don't look at a whole lot of new games coming out. And
I
I'm not
understand
a
that,
YouTuber
honestly.
that sits and suggests, like every new game that comes out. My whole thing about gaming is find the rule sets you absolutely love and become a hobby gamer and stay with those rule sets. One of
Yeah,
the things that I don't like about YouTube so much is you have a lot of people that push like OGL and OSR games constantly. I'm like, wait a second. These are all the same game with just a different take on them. You're not doing yourself
yeah.
any favor jumping between all of these.
That is a commonly leveled but quite accurate criticism of the space in general. I myself have even overindulged, and I have at least a half a dozen OSR iterations on my shelf that I just know I'm never going to play. If I'm going to play D&D, I'm hauling out either the rule encyclopedia or the first edition books. I'm never going to play old school essentials. I'm just not.
Right. That's one of my major complaints. And the term OSR has lost all relevancy to me nowadays.
Yeah, it's
It's
become diluted. I think
it every
though that it did its job and it's resulted in some good stuff. Like
oh, for
actually out
sure.
of that, I still like Shadow Dark. I think that's a good game.
Yeah, but I don't consider Shadow Dark in any kind of way an OSR game. It shares nothing in common with the original Dungeons and Dragons. It's 5th edition stripped down.
Well, that's where I will push back and disagree because what she did is she stripped 5th edition down to the OSR aesthetics. Could have been a
Aesthetics
little bit
don't
better,
make
a
a
little bit
game.
better, right?
But Jack,
Like,
let me ask you, Jack. If I took 5th edition, I filled it full of line art from basic D&D and AD&D, would that make it OSR?
no, no.
Okay, so how is Shadow Dark OSR?
Oh, because it's not just fifth edition. It's pared down, simplified, and easier to use
Okay, let me
than
ask a better way. Is it on the D20 system that all modern D&D uses, or
Yes,
is
it
it on
is.
the system that is on basic advanced Dungeons and Dragons? The
You got me
mechanics of
there.
the
Yeah,
system.
it uses the modern design
Right.
sensibilities where it's a D20 advantage,
The
disadvantage.
OSR line for me is third edition. Third edition, basic D&D, second edition, first edition, etc. They were all built on top of each other and pretty much compatible with each other as the base underlying mechanics. Third edition came along, changed all of that. Every
Yes.
edition afterwards is now based on the D20 system. So when somebody says OSR to me, I expect a game mechanically that plays, not looks, but plays like Dungeons and Dragons before third edition, because that was what the OSR movement was founded upon.
I like it. That's actually a great definition, and I agree. So you're right. I will drop that, and other people have said that Shadow Dark is not, in fact, an OSR game. It's maybe in that style, in that vein,
It's an
it's
OGL game.
introducing fifth edition
It's
newer
it,
players
it's
to
it's
that
it, it's a
style.
it's a mod it's an OGL game, but OGL does not necessarily mean OSR to me.
Correct. And for me, there is a bunch of overlap because, well, I think there are many games that do the same, which says definitionally that tells me that in your mind, Castles and Crusades is not OSR either
No, and that's I'm going to
because
do a
it's
whole episode
D20
on this
based.
soon because of Castles and Crusades. To me, Castles and Crusades, it's it's my favorite iteration of modern D&D. But just because they put an overlay of first edition classes on top of the D20 system does
Mhm.
not make it OSR to me. And the fact that I bring that up, it took me several years to get into Castles and Crusades because people kept calling it OSR.
Okay. Great, great. I can really understand that. So what are the games that you can recall that are strictly OSR? The only two that I really know of off the top of my head, I have like Basic Fantasy and oh yeah, Swords and Wizardry. I should know that. Basic Fantasy,
Swords and
Old School,
Wizardry,
and Swords.
Labyrinth Lord, uh, Osric, which was a first edition
Right. Frankenstein,
AD&D.
Hackmaster. I remember that. I don't
No,
have any
Hackmaster.
one
No,
games.
Hackmaster's actually funny. It was a joke based on Rollmaster, but
Right.
people started playing it seriously, and it's taken off. So
Right. Yeah. I had. I mean, that's the thing. It was it's first edition. All the random tables of first edition D&D expanded to a ridiculous degree. It's great because the only thing somebody bought me the Hackmaster GM screen many years ago as a joke,
right.
which is a ridiculous thing. One day I'll do. If I ever get around to actually making videos, I'll do a review of the Hackmaster screen. Yeah, and well,
And in the chat, I am with Cyrus. I say that the Iron Crown Enterprise D1 open-ended 2D10 or D100 system. I don't know if he's now. Maybe I'm mistaken what he's saying
yeah,
there.
he's saying 2D10, not
D10, yeah,
D100.
that could be. But I'm for me the greatest, most thought out and well put together rule mechanics that's ever been done was Iron Crown Enterprises with the Rollmaster and MERP and Cyberspace and Harp and all the games that they use let that engine power it.
Well, that's it's moments like that that make me think there's no hope for you. No, I jest. No, I actually we talked about that in the past. I think I am not a Rollmaster fan. I am a MERP fan.
Well, your same game, they just Rollmaster adds in more detail.
Exactly. So again, what I liked was in one of the later editions of MERP, they had a more explicit breakdown of converting, like using the class abilities and arms law, claw law, and stuff like that for MERP. But I liked the simpler, like character generation, skill tiers, fewer number of charts, all that stuff. So I definitely liked the Rollmaster Lite, but I honestly found that Rollmaster was too much of a good thing.
Greatest role playing game for solo fantasy wise I've ever ran into. Don't want to play it as a group. Solo. This is it. Roll Master Standard, baby.
Press X to doubt.
Yeah.
Now again, why? Being a
Why?
devoted long-term solo player, what makes that Rollmaster Standard the best solo game? Why is that not just a subjective
Because
aesthetic judgment on your
it's
part?
just unsubjectively, the game pushes itself forward. So every time you make a skill roll, every time you're in combat, you get detailed results as an outcome that pushes your game constantly forward. So it makes you less reliant on all these solo tools that you have to lay on top of your rule system to make it work.
So because the game is so procedural in the first place, it naturally adapts to solo.
Well,
Like,
it's you got to look at your input and your outcome. With a class and level system, no matter how detailed it is, it still ends up being abstract outcomes. Hit points being taken off, this kind of thing. Success, failure, whatever. But with a game like Rollmaster, number one, you have a lot more freedom in your player creation. So you're less reliant on having to run a party for balance. Number two is when you roll on anything, you're getting detailed information back beyond just the abstract success or failure. For example, let me just roll up a random table here for a skill. This is, let me get something other than attack. There's a self-control skill here. Under this skill, depending on what you roll on this table, you're going to get a detailed result back. You are distracted at a critical moment. If not in combat, you may abort your attempt and try again. Perhaps you should switch to decaf. Yeah, so there's some jokes in there that's sort of funny.
yeah.
But you get something back other than just success or failure or hit points taken off.
There's a
That,
narrative
that pushes the
element to
story.
each
Right.
one.
All detail is going to push your story forward. That's why I'm a big proponent of using detailed rule systems for solo play, because in essence, they help you along. They provide you the information that you're looking for.
Now, this might just be an aesthetic judgment. One of the things that works against that for me is I get to a point with a game like that where, well, I'm spending all my time flipping around from one table to the next to look up the results. How much actual play is going on? In other words, I get book fatigued early. If I'm spending too much time
Well, you don't have
books,
to.
reading about stuff,
But you don't have to. Like Rollmaster Standard, for example, you're going to know your success dice ranges. If you just need to know a success, roll the dice. You don't have to look at a chart. You know, if you need over 101 to pass, you can add your bonuses and stuff in your die roll, and you know if you've passed or not. Now, if you want that extra detail, you can pull up the chart for that.
Okay, so if you need the detail, it's there and available. And those kind of results are sort of turn every die roll into an oracle. Because
not necessarily an oracle, but just a way to push the game forward. An oracle's answering questions, basically, is it raining, is the door locked, etc. Rollmaster's not giving you that type of information because that's beyond the game rules. But within the game rules, you're getting a lot of information back based on what you're trying to do. It's something more for you to work with.
Right. Now,
go ahead.
What is the ideal solo play experience, right? What with using Rollmaster as an example of it's the perfect system in your mind, what's the perfect solo role play experience?
I didn't say it was the perfect system. I just said it was one of my favorites for solo gaming.
Oh, pardon me. I'm putting words in your mouth. No, you got to understand your favorite means objectively the best. This is the internet. That's, I'm holding you to those words.
No, okay. But no, I tell people all the time, my rule sets don't determine my game. My game determines what rule set I want to use for it. I come to the table with an idea in mind. I'm a daydreamer. Oftentimes I'll think of little pieces of worlds or stories or characters or whatever, and I'll say, that's interesting. I want to bring that to the table. So maybe it's a very I want to just have an abstract game and focus on nothing but the story. I've got things like tunnels and trolls that are perfect for that. I don't have to worry about creating a lot of just get the story rolling. Sometimes I look at it and I say, I really enjoy this piece of this world I've created and some of the characters I'm thinking about. I really want to get down to the nitty gritty details of this world and just immerse myself in it. That's where things like Rollmaster and such step in.
Sure, 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 sure. I really I that resonates with me too, is oftentimes, particularly when I'm learning a new game or something, like I've got that. You always do the first thing, you give the book a read or a skim, and then you create your first character. And for me, consequently, the natural next step is to throw them into that character into a situation to roll some dice and test out how the system works. So,
Yeah, for
whether it's a
sure.
bar fight or a duel in the gladiator arena, I usually start out with something like that for any given game and character. Do you have
Right.
like default go-tos? Because I really get that notion of I've got this great idea for a character in my mind, and it would be perfect in this game or this game, right? Do you
Yeah. So
construct much in the way of campaigns or overarching stories like that?
yeah, but I normally let them develop. Maybe I have something in mind for sort of an end game, but I let my solo game create that story. If you can imagine that, it's I sit down and I have this character, and maybe I know that there's this other character somewhere in my mind. I've created this story. Instead of trying to embellish it further in my mind, I'll say, like a VCR, we're pausing the tape right there.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we're going, yeah, so we've got this world that these two characters exist in. We know there's some relation between these two characters. So let's pick one of them and start just playing and fleshing out the story and leave room for the other character to finally become involved. And we see what the story ends up being between these two characters and what the story is going to be going forward with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as rule sets go, I don't
Yeah.
really have a default. I look at rule systems more on the level of how abstract they are versus how detailed they are. And I let that determine what rule set I'm going to look at. Like stuff like the class and level D&D castles and crusades and stuff. I see that sort of just directly in the middle between abstract and detail. So that's a good default, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah. That is actually.
Yeah, so it's a good default. Those type of the D&D class and level style systems, and you can get them flavored to whatever particular story that you want, whether it's Old West or sci-fi or medieval fantasy or dark fantasy or low fantasy, whatever. So
Yeah.
that can have it a lot. But like I said again, I don't let my rules determine my game. My game's actually going to determine what rules I'm going to use. I have a very great distinction between my game, which is what's at the table, versus my rules, which are in books.
I think I understand that. And that actually kind of leads definitionally to, you have a very unique term that I don't hear other channels or RPG advocates use, and that is the term hobby gaming. Can
Right.
you trace that down for us? What is hobby gaming, and why is it different than what other YouTubers are doing?
Well, I don't know how different it is between what other YouTubers are doing, because to be honest, I don't watch gaming YouTube. Very rarely do I watch. I just don't enjoy it. It's like, do I want to watch
Yeah.
gaming or do I want to go do some gaming? I want to go do some gaming. So yeah, I
Yeah.
watch the Jawin with Jack regulars here. They know me because I pop in and out of the live chats when I'm able to catch you, and I'm not over there doing a live stream of some computer game or something that I'm messing with.
Yep.
But when it comes to hobby gaming, I see gaming as, especially like role playing games and such, they're more of a hobby to me than a pastime. So a lot of people confuse those two terms, hobby and pastime.
I was about to ask, what's the distinction?
Well, to me, a pastime is something that you can participate in, but you don't have a whole lot of control over. Like you can have a
Watching
pastime.
TV,
Yeah,
watching
you don't have
baseball.
playing baseball. You can play baseball, but you have no control over the rules of baseball or anything else. You've agreed and consented to come in and play by these rules.
Okay.
But a hobby, on the other hand, that's something that it's you're meant to get your hands into. You're meant to work with. Like gardening to me is a hobby. No one can tell you what to plant and how to plant it. You can break the rules on the seed packets if you want.
Right,
But
right.
it's made to come in. It's not an off the shelf experience. It's something. It's a tool set. RP gaming at the table. Everything should be tools to you, not constrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about gaming, it's what I do at the table. When I talk about rules, that's what's in the books behind me. The rules are tools. My game is my game.
And the hobby really picks up where the game is at, right? The
Yeah,
rules are
that
just a
that's it.
method
Because
for it.
right, it's not. I know a lot of modern D&D products and stuff. They make it more like a pastime where you just buy more books to get more adventures and you stick to the books and all this kind of stuff. That's not the way it was. Go back to your early editions of D&D, second edition, first edition, etc. It was each rule set was a world crafting tool set.
Yes.
And even in AD&D, a lot of the not rules, but the adventure modules, they were advertised as something that you can drop in your own game on a Saturday night if you haven't created something for your players.
Yep. Yep. It's,
So this whole off the shelf gaming mentality that's grown is great for the industry. It's great for Wizards of the Coast. They want to sell you more books
yep.
constantly.
Yes.
But as a hobby gamer, give me a rule set and a few tools that I can use, mostly what's in my head, and we can build a game at the table all day long, every day, and it's going to be more personable and enjoyable to the people who play it because they have personal connections with it.
Right. 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 And I love that. One of the things I also wanted to tease out that I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but you also pointed out that one of the major distinctions for you is that I think, like how you said with pastime, is that there are such things as casuals. They're not really gamers in the same way that you and I are, not deep and passionate into it. They're the people who, oh yeah, I'll play D&D as long as someone's dungeon mastering, but don't expect me to actually read the rules or understand anything.
Well, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever called them casuals. I don't like casuals
Yeah,
because
that's why I hesitated. I was like, that was
because
not the word you
if
used,
anything,
but
I
it
could
made
be
me think
considered
of
a
that.
yeah. Because if anything, I could be considered a casual gamer. I love gaming. It's a huge hobby of mine, but it doesn't dominate my life so much. So it's if you met me on the street, I'm not going to walk up and say, I'm Deathstalker 5. I play Dungeons and Dragons. What do you do? It's just I've got other things going on. So a lot of people might consider me a casual gamer. But what I call them is, I guess, pastime gamers or off the shelf gamers,
Right.
I'll call them.
Off the shelf, right. So, and I very much resonate with that. Like, you know, you can play video games. You can play, like, say, Skyrim. I love Skyrim. I'm even playing it again myself recently. But if I want to change Skyrim, do something different, my options are extremely limited.
Right.
But if I pull a setting or a game or any kind of rule system off the shelf, there is no limit to how I can
No,
customize
only
that.
your imagination.
Mhm.
Only your imagination is the limiting factor there. You could grab your favorite fantasy rule set off the shelf and say, I'm going to play Skyrim on the table
Absolutely. As a matter of
and
fact,
just incorporate the
Chubby
main themes and
Funster
stories.
and yeah, somebody was talking about there's Shadow Rim, which is Chubby Funster did a Shadow Dark source book. It's Skyrim for Shadow Dark. It's actually, and I've heard a lot of people say really great things about it. It's a great implementation. But that's exactly the kind of idea you're talking about, is that at the table with our game, we can adapt it to be whatever we need. How many times have you played a video game in your life where you've said, I like this game so much, but if I could change this and this, then it would be perfect. You have that
Sure.
freedom, and that's one of the great things about this particular hobby.
Right. It's all in the difference. Are you a pastime gamer? Are you just using what's being fed to you? Or are you hungry for something more than that? And you go into the hobby and start creating your game experience at the table instead of
Absolutely.
trying to just buy your game experience at the table.
Absolutely. And I tend to be very much that way myself. I've got an extensive collection, but I'm much more I'm someone I'd rather have 10 core books for 10 different game systems than 10 books for one game system, like with all their
I'm the
expanded
complete opposite. I find the game systems I love and I want every book for it, so I have just that much more to work with.
See, and for some reason that doesn't work for me when it comes to expanding the game itself. I tend to find that the supplemental materials tend to be the bloat and the cash grabs. Maybe I'm just traumatized by my history with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I'm about to say that sounds more like class and level systems where you come over here to the dark side with me on Rollmaster. Their supplements aren't just supplements, like Rollmaster Standard. There's a horror supplement where you can add horror to your game and play that. There's a pulp supplement where you can use the Rollmaster
Yep.
rules to play pulp gaming. You have the uh, various systems, RuneQuest, etc. A lot of their supplements, they're not just adding bloat on top of the rules that exist, but they're giving you new ways to use the rules you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, and speaking of that, I don't know if you noticed, but Cyrus asked a cool question. Do you ever mix roles? Do you ever take Rollmaster into your CPS Universal or something like that?
No, I mean I mix things from rule sets. Mostly, if you got to look at I don't mix rule mechanics too much. Yeah, I don't want that. That normally creates a mess with me, especially as a solo gamer. I don't want to dig through and figure out where I got what from what to resolve this one thing.
I tend
But
to agree. I like to be cohesive in a single rule
yeah, I
set.
like to be cohesive. I don't like adding rules on top of rules, especially to make it work for solo. No. But I will grab various source materials from various things. If I'm playing Rollmaster and I need a winch table, I'll go open AD&D First Edition Dungeon Master Guide and open it
Use
up,
that
and
harlot
bam, oh,
table.
there. Yeah, the harlot table. Just as a joke. But what I'm saying is this is what we talked about when my early on soloing. I was grabbing resources from everywhere, not necessarily rule sets, but things I could use to power the story and the world and the adventure that was happening on the table. Whether it was a phone book from over here, because I could get names for
Yep.
NPCs just flipping to random pages, or I could get tables from Dragon Quest for the social encounters. I could get dungeon generators from First Edition AD&D. I mean, I would just grab all of these things and be
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
use them at the table in conjunction with one another. But no, I've never been big on mixing rules or having rules on top of rules. That's to me just not the way to go.
Right. For me, it's got to be a fairly clean port. It's sort of like, uh, I'm I'm playing Castles and Crusades, and those core books don't have random dungeon generation rules, so I'll go grab Appendix A from the first edition DMG.
Right,
That
right.
right, that's the kind of stuff that I would do. But I'm not going to say, well, we're going to play Castles and Crusades, but I'm bringing in the non-weapon proficiency system from second edition. No, 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 no.
Right. No, no.
Uh, and again, that's one of I'm very opinionated on that one because in my experience, all house rules suck, including my own.
Well,
I'm
it's
being hyperbolic, but
yeah.
the number of
Well,
house rules I've used over the years is
well,
literally
one
not.
thing, especially with older RPGs, like you can look at Dungeons and Dragons. Look how long it took to get an attribute check system in there. And
Yeah,
where did that come from? Because people were doing attribute checks. Hey, I need to know if I can do this thing. Let's just
right.
use, and it makes sense. Attributes define our characters. So that was a house rule we commonly saw.
Yep,
Even in first
and
edition AD&D, that didn't come out until the Dungeoneer Survival Guide and Wilderness Survival Guide. There
yep,
was no attribute checks in first edition AD&D rules.
yep, and no non-weapon proficiencies either. There were
Right,
only
all
weapon
that came out much
proficiencies.
later. The
Yep.
the earliest I can find of even a basic attribute check is in the mold base set.
Yes, that was the classic roll under one. I couldn't remember. I remember it from
Yeah,
Menser because I never
yeah,
owned the Moldvay ones. But yeah, I remember those
yeah,
ability checks,
yeah.
which
So there
they
was
continued with all the way up into the Immortals box set with Menser.
right. So those kind of things were house rules, but they were absolutely needed
Yes,
because okay, yes, you have game master or dungeon master discretion, and he can handle most things, but some things you need to let the players actually roll on and see if they're successful or not.
right, right. Well, and like you said, depending on the granularity of the system, it will provide you with an actual detailed result, like not just a
Success or
you
failure.
succeeded, you failed. Okay, I went out to chop firewood, and I succeeded on the check. Okay, did I get a lot of firewood or just enough firewood? Or if
Right,
I
right,
failed, did I hurt myself? How did I fail to chop firewood? But
right.
there are
And
many, many varieties.
in group gaming, that's not necessarily needed. But as a solo gamer, having something to give us a success or failure result at bare minimum is absolutely needed.
Yes, and that is true, and that's where I find that there's a lot of overlap, particularly with solo rules light players like myself and writer brain. It's one of those things. When I'm solo playing, I really prefer to use physical notebooks, paper and pencil, and stuff like that
Right,
because if I'm in front of a computer like we are now, and my writer brain kicks in and it turns into an writing
right,
exercise more than a game.
right. You've heard me say it, and I can say that for you, this is the first time I've ever had a computer on my gaming table.
Yeah. Yep.
I,
Normally, I
I
mean,
haven't.
don't even record your videos here, do you?
Well, yeah, I record my videos here, but it's my computer and stuff's not here. The camera can come over here, but I have a strict rule, and I've maintained it since probably when did smartphones really come out? About 2010.
Yeah,
I've
2008.
had a strict rule that whether I'm doing solo gaming or I'm hosting a group game, we don't have screens at the table whatsoever. We have pen, paper, physical books, physical dice, and we sit down and we concentrate on gaming.
I don't even let you use a calculator. It's scratch paper and do it
No,
on.
we can use a calculator.
Oh, okay. No,
When you
I
when
get
you
that screen. I have violated the screen rule myself. I'm normally that way. But the one thing I did do was I used the Mythic GM emulator phone app so that I'm not having to juggle one more hardcover book at my table when I'm playing.
yeah. But nowadays you picked up my solo D100 percentage oracle and you don't need that filth anymore.
Well, hey man, I'm gonna be honest. My favorite oracle nowadays is the Calarath oracle. It's the D6, writing prompt oracle. It's the answers range from no but to no and to yes but to yes and.
But it sounds like it was pulled straight from Swords Scarlet Heroes. That's literally the oracle out of Scarlet Heroes.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I couldn't remember because I am most familiar with it from Calarath, but I kind of felt I had seen it somewhere else before, and I couldn't remember where. But
Yeah, that
that is probably
D6.
it.
Yeah, that's I like that oracle a whole lot, but I don't know why. I don't know why that video blew up so big. I thought that I was just putting out something common sense that I hadn't seen anybody talking about. So I was like, you can use percentages to give you your oracle, right? Just
Yeah.
give it a common range and roll. And if you meet the percentage, then yes. And if it doesn't, then it's no.
Well, and what you just did was describe the Mythic GM emulator. It's a little bit more
Yep.
crunchy and systematic than that, but it not by much. That's the essential
Well,
quality.
that's why I took one look at that emulator, and I'm like, why go through all these steps when you can just use a basic percentage and a common sense? Is it going to rain today? Well, you're in the desert, so very low chance, 2% chance there's rain. And it's just roll.
I I use fingers and toes. That's hey, only when I got to count the
Me
whole
too.
numbers. Yeah.
Me too.
Well, I feel like degree of gaming. That Oracle, though, the specific use that comes out of Mythic is the tracking of threads and characters. That's the real innovation that helps. And there are specific mechanisms and methods that recall or either old characters and threads into the scene
Sure.
or tell you to inject a new one. That has its
Sure.
pluses and minuses, but for people who are looking for that kind of stuff in their game, I do recommend Mythic for those things. Because again, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
simple
Mythic.
Oracle is fine, but it doesn't explicitly tell you, well, you know what, you should go back to and pick an old NPC that you haven't seen in a while or something like that.
Well, that depends on what tools you're using at the table, because your tools may fulfill that role without. Like I said, it's. I go for sort of, what do they call it? Occam's razor. Let's
Occam's
go for the
razor.
simplest
Yeah.
approach to get the best detail we can back. Using an oracle that's spewing all kinds of side information to me is not as useful as having a different tool to give me all that side information in more detail, and let my oracle just give me my yes and no's. And like I said in the video, you can customize your oracle where if you roll very, like if you've got 50% chance of doing something and you roll like a 1 through 4, you can stagger that upwards. Like, not only did you succeed, but you spectacularly succeeded. Roll and find out how you did that.
Yep.
Same with failures. If you rolled a 50, okay, yeah, the answer is yes, but it's barely a yes. Let's figure out why it's barely a yes. That's much more useful to me than having just random pieces of information thrown at me from an oracle.
I got it. Now, everything you said, though, that is functionally how Mythic works. I mentioned that it's a little bit crunchier, but like what you're saying,
Right,
that is how Mythic works. You have that
right,
percentage chance, and you will roll either yes or no, or extreme yes and extreme no for those fringe cases,
right.
and those probabilities are all worked out for you ahead of time, rather than being a judgment call on the fly. So it's like, it's that thing of, you have your chaos factor if you like that one, and then you choose, this is a very likely thing, or this is a terribly
Yeah, it's
unlikely
very similar,
thing.
but what I'm trying to show is doing
Mhm.
it the mythic way. You're doing a whole lot. You're doing more steps to get to the same answer.
Right. And my point being, with that's exactly what you need if you wanted to do something. Most role playing games, it is a necessary tool if you want to solo them, because they don't have the materials that you're talking about. If
Right,
5e
right.
is your poison and that's what you like to play, or Shadow Darker or something like that, you need something like Mythic to make it happen, because then it is doing all the things that uh
Sure,
that if
sure.
your system doesn't
All
have
solo
them, that
games,
now you
yeah,
do.
all your solo game is going to need some form of an oracle. I mean, that's just bare bones.
Right.
But yeah, it's to me, I like more of a simple oracle and let my other tools provide more detail than the oracle ever will.
And see, that's the thing, though, is I think you and I, though, are both living proof that in fact you don't need oracles, or kind of really we always did them. It was an instinctive thing. It's like if somebody says, well, uh
Well,
can
I learned my
can
oracle.
I find an unlocked window to crawl through? I don't know. Let me roll a d6. On a 1 to 3,
Well,
no. On a 4 to 6,
the
yes.
percentage oracle is something that I found very early on, and it was looking at Dragon Quest Second Edition and AD&D. Where believe it or not, for people who's never seen any old edition of D&D, there were percentages rolls for abilities and stuff. Holy smokes, not all D20.
Yep.
But I looked at that and I said, okay, well, this is determining how successful my character is. Why can't I use this roll for everything else in the game?
Right. Right. Well, and it's one of those conundrums like first edition. It's like I've got open doors, which is a D6 roll, and then I've got bend bars, lift gates, which is a percentage roll, and then I
Right.
have nothing resembling that for any of the other stats. Right. So
Right.
it's kind of
So
like,
yeah, for
do
me,
you
it was
port
just
them? Do we
naturally.
just use similar stuff? For mental
Yeah.
feats, we got an open doors and bend bars, lift gates equivalents. We got a, algebra column and a calculus column.
The only thing I can remember is I like playing a thief, and all I could ever do was climb walls. It's
Yeah, yeah, that's one of those. Yeah. First edition has biased me against thieves for sure. Old edition.
Yeah, all I can do is climb a wall. What you guys need me to do again?
Well, we need you to sneak in there. Yeah. It was uh and ironically, if there is any character class that was best designed in those old editions for solo play, it was the thief, because you
Yeah,
actually
it's
did
more.
have a
It's,
chance to sneak
you
in,
need a
grab the treasure, and get out.
right. It's a utility character. That's why I don't prefer class and level systems for solo play, because for me, I want to role play, like actual get behind the eyes and be in the world. I can't do that easily with a party, so I do it better with one character. So that's why I say, like, Dungeons and Dragons stuff, yeah, they can be used, but essentially the game is built around the premise that you would have a group of characters that had all the necessary skills in which to accomplish things in the
Yes.
game.
Well,
So I
it's a
look at things
balanced
like
party. We've
I
got at
look at
least one
role
cleric,
masters,
at least one wizard, at least one thief, and a
right?
bunch of
But I
fighters.
take a look at role master, and it's complete freedom to create character that I want. So it's not dependent on having a bunch of other characters to supplement it.
Now, here's the thing, solo wise, a problem I run into in such systems is you still have trouble functioning as a self-sufficient solo character. Do you find that you often have to rely on groups? Like, when even if you're playing solo, I need 4 characters to
No,
be the crew of my ship or something like that?
no, I try to with my characters. It's basically I try to sort of like I would in real life. You know that if I come upon a problem and I try to do it myself and I find out I can't, I'm going to go hire the best person I can afford to do it with me. So in my solo gaming, I stay behind the eyes of that one character and say I come to a door and I try a few different things, and problem solving comes into a lot of things versus rule mechanics. But I try a few
Yeah.
things, and the problem solving stuff I came up with is still not successful. Then I'll go back and try to find a locksmith or somebody and bring them along to help me with that objective that I'm trying, my character needs to get through or past or
Yeah,
whatever.
makes
But
sense.
yeah, so that's generally how I handle that, because like I said, I see a lot of people solo gaming and it's basically board games. They're taking a tabletop role playing game and turn it into a board game experience
Yeah,
where
it's like
it's like they're
playing.
watching from the third eye view, and this little character goes over here and blah 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 blah. And
Yeah, like
no, I
playing
still,
Hero Quest solo or something like that. Yeah, it's
yeah, I'm
more
still
of
of the mindset that I enjoy to actually get behind the eyes of my character. I want to see the world as a living, breathing place,
yeah,
because solo tabletop role playing game is still the only mechanism where you're allowed to step into your own imagination through a character.
absolutely,
Yeah, I can
absolutely.
take this world of my imagination, give it a logic, find the tools to make it living and breathing, and I can get behind a character and I can explore a world of my literal imagination. There's
Yeah,
no other vehicle that I know
and
of that can
more
allow you to do that.
and moreover, I love the fact that it is distinguished from, because theoretically, I think a pedantic person might say, "Well, you can do that right in fishing because you create the character and then you explore the world you're creating." But the emergent quality of role playing games, because it's more like the discovery of being a seat of the pants kind of writer, where when they sit down to write, they don't know what's going to come out. They don't know where, they have no plan, and they don't know where the story is. And
Right,
that's that kind of joy I get out of solo gaming.
right. And I
And
oftentimes I think
yeah,
I sit back and think, I say, you know, what if Tolkien could have known about role playing games, where he could have wrote the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion and the Hobbit and such. But what if he had the chance, the experience that he could take those worlds and pick a time period and create a character and give all the other characters their logic and reasoning and rules and such, and just step in there and see what's going on in Middle Earth. You know, I like to think about stuff like that.
I yeah, I tend to agree. That's really amazing. I mean, I actually even thought of like you said, what if Tolkien himself had somebody bought him D&D early on, and for whatever reason he read it and fell in love with it and said, "You know what? I'm going to write my own version of this." You know,
Right,
like Ken St. Andre, he read the D&D rules once, and by his story he said, "What a great idea. What a terrible way to do it. I'm going to write my own."
right. So it's to me, it's like I said, it's a it's the only way I know of. It's a chance to where you get to step into a living, breathing world that's only in your imagination. Even with a group game, you can describe the world of your imagination, but each and every person is going to imagine it themselves individually. But
Yes.
as a solo gamer, this gives me the absolute chance to just dive into these worlds in which I personally imagine and explore within them with a character. And I think that's the deepest aspect to solo gaming that there is.
Yeah, I got one of your videos from back in the day that I love is where you went into great detail talking about how being a solo player allows you to try a whole bunch of stuff that just would not work in a group game. Like you want to play a merchant.
Right.
How many times have we had somebody come to the D&D table and go, "Oh, I want to play a merchant." Yeah, that is not going to work with an adventuring party. It's just not going
No.
to. You have different goals.
No, but as
But
a solo gamer, if you want to find out what it's like to be a merchant, hey, figure out what you need to do to open up your shop in whatever little fantasy town or whatever science fiction setting you've created,
yep,
and
yep,
roll up your customers, roll up the adventures that come walking through your doors, or what it takes for you to procure items, etc. And
right,
there's
right.
it's just all the
Explore
possibilities
the
are open.
explore all the reasons you thought playing a merchant would be interesting, right? To
Right,
do all that stuff. It sounds like
right.
you are very much like me too, that you really prefer the singular character experience. I when I solo
Yes.
play, I like to play one character just like I do in a role-playing
Well,
game.
yeah,
I'm
it's
much more
suspension of
apt to
disbelief.
accept henchmen and hirelings and stuff like that, or short.
Well, in my solo game, I'll have my character. Everything else is an NPC, and even my henchlings and hirelings, we give them personalities and interact with them. We let the game rules run them with the logic of the game.
Right, yeah, and very much
Yeah,
I do that too. It's still even though I have that and those supporting characters take on a life of their own and personality with time, the longer they're in your game, they're still, to my mind, the supporting character of the story. They're never the main character.
right, right. I'm not one of the gamers that runs a party or a group and I try to get behind each and every character and role play their personalities. I think you'd probably end up in an insane asylum after a while.
I thought this where you were streaming from all this time.
No, but we do have people in facilities that watch the show.
I can believe that. I can
I love
believe
it.
that.
I love it. I love it. You know, it's I've always tried to make I don't come to YouTube for the numbers and the fad gaming and all this. My goal is to build a community, and anytime I do an episode, it feels like you're sitting at the table or in the game room with me. And we have talks and discussions, but it's about community building. So I've had a lot of times where people spoke up and said, "Hey, I've been in some dark places and your videos got me through. It felt like I had somewhere I belonged for a little while." And I say, "Well, that's why I do it."
Man, you love to hear that too, and I've been in the community officially since you launched the
Mhm.
paid memberships, and that's when I made my way into the Discord, and it's a great, very supportive community, no drama, no questionable stuff, and we're just all sharing ideas, jokes, having a good time, man. It is a great community, and that's one of the things that has kept me coming back to you over and over again over the years is the sheer amount of positivity, good spirits, and good humor that you put on display every single time. So thank you, Deathstalker.
Yeah, to me, I can't stand all the nonsense drama,
Me too.
especially around tabletop gaming. I'm like, don't these people have a life? Who cares?
Well, and see, that's the thing, though, isn't it? Is feeling this tension myself of you want your channel to grow. If it's become an income stream for you, then you need it to grow. You need those
For
numbers,
sure.
right? So that's where you're constantly chasing the ad revenue and the views, and that has
Uh,
been an
I've,
anathema to you from day one.
yeah, I'm not chasing the ad revenues and views so much. I come from a different philosophy that because I know we're not going to do the fad topics and the drama and all this kind of stuff, we're not going to draw in all the clickbait viewers and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I said I would be better off being supported by a very strong community, even if it's few in number. Then I'd much rather have that than have a million subscribers that I don't that never participate.
Well,
So
and
we're very much a community oriented experience over at the Random Encounter show.
Well, and I'm seeing tons of indications that you made the right decision. That is the right decision to go because so many YouTubers, particularly now, even if they have 100,000 or a million subscribers, you go and check the viewership on their videos, and they're, how many times have you heard one of these dungeon tubers complaining about, oh, my views are in the toilet?
Well,
Why
that's
is
the
that?
fake professor guy, right?
What? Oh, Professor DM. I actually like him, but yeah, he says that all the
I've
time.
been seeing a lot of clickbait nonsense. I'm going to destroy my channel and all this kind of stuff. It's like, dude, get out of here. No one cares.
Right?
Destroy
Yeah.
it.
And again, and that's it. Well, and that's the thing is, I have listened to him for years, and he is fighting the good fight because he's saying,
Oh,
I'm
I
tired.
agree.
I'm tired of all these comments of people of I miss when you just did your adventure reviews or your building terrain and stuff like that. And he goes,
Well,
bull crap. You don't watch them. People don't watch those videos. But when I do D&D tragedy with no prep or whatever, when I do the clickbaity stuff, I get tons of views. And you know what? This is paid for my daughter's orthodontist. So
yeah,
that's
yeah, I can understand that. But one of the things that woke me up big time on YouTube was for years and years and years, you had all your bigger tabletop YouTubers pushing 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
It was the greatest role playing game ever made, according to some people we know. Yeah. But as soon as the OGL debacle happened, and then Wizards of the Coast, the D&D stock started to go down.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they turned around and said D&D 5th edition was one of the worst role-playing games on the market, and that you shouldn't support them anymore. And I look back at it, and what happened was Wizards of the Coast cut their sponsorship to a whole lot of YouTubers. So it woke me up on how many YouTubers were behind the scenes taking money to put words in their mouth.
Yep. Yes, and the word we use for that is shill.
Right.
There is a legitimate turn that happened with the OGL scandal and stuff like that, which of course everybody did, and there does seem to be that thing. It also it shows that sadly the money wins out. That's the thing is, was it really the best game? So were you lying then, or are you lying now? Right.
Right. That's why
I don't get
into. Yeah, that's why I don't get into a lot of gaming YouTube material and such like that, is because they speak out of both sides of their mouth if you pay attention over time.
And ultimately, it's an empty bag. I mean, I got into it for a while, but most of the big channels I stopped watching because their advice doesn't apply to me. I don't need it. I'm not having those kind of problems at my table,
Right.
And that's why the other guys who just read the RPG horror stories all over the place. I'm like, every RPG horror story is some variation of. So after I ignored a dozen red flags from this questionable player, my game went to shit. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, and the other thing is just the fake reviews. It gets to the point where if I'm looking for a game, I don't even look it up on YouTube. I don't want to hear the fake reviews. One of my metrics for a YouTube channel is to go back and see if they reviewed something like Rollmaster. Yeah, that exposes more YouTubers to doing fake reviews where they don't even know the rules, never played it one time in their life, haven't even read it. Don't seem like Rollmaster will expose them because they don't know what they're talking about, but they're up here giving you a review over something.
Yeah, I am totally in that camp too. RPG reviews, by and large, are not worth the time to watch them.
No,
they didn't play. Now, I will go out of my way to watch a video of I played this game for a year straight, and here's what I think after that year. Right?
Yeah, I want to hear. I want to hear the opinions of. Right? Yeah, I want to hear the opinions of people who experienced the game and know the game. But most all of the review channels on YouTube, how are they giving you a review of a game that hasn't even came off Kickstarter yet?
Exactly. Advanced copies, promotional stuff. Well, see, that's the thing is that's a legit thing now, though. They do get promo copies. The PDF is going to be done long before anything. They'll send that
well,
out.
well,
Let's generate the
well, I
buzz.
understand that, but like for
Right.
my channel personally, you can attest to this. I'll get a game in, you're not going to see that for a long time. Why?
Well,
Because
exactly.
I'm going to go through the cycle of playing it, going through it, studying it, understanding it.
You're
Then
going
I'm
to
more
vet
comfortable to come
the
tell you.
game. Yeah, you vet the game for us. You don't tell us about a game unless you've got extensive experience with it. And that's why
Right.
your reviews are actually worthwhile.
And I don't even call what I do reviews. It's more overviews. I say, here's what I like. Here's what I don't like. Here's what's in the book. Take it or leave it,
Right. And moreover, that's also one of those things that I understand in product reviews, it's a necessary thing, but you're never talking about crap like, oh, the box set was excellently produced and it's really sturdy, or the production qualities of the print on demand or whatever. That's not your focus. You talk about the game and how it works. How does the system work? How does the character work? Is it fun? Did I run into problems with it that made it not fun? Dungeons
Right.
dollars.
That's what it's about, buddy.
Right, and this one got a preview copy of Full Metal Tilt. Shout out Travis Fulber. He was just on the show recently himself, and that's a great example. He got a preview copy, being his own gaming channel, and liked it so much that he did go and do the Kickstarter. Now,
Yeah.
Travis Fulber is legit and putting the work in. What we're complaining about is that other stuff of like I'm gonna name the name Ben Milton. I don't give a shit about his Questing Beast reviews because you haven't played any of the stuff you're reviewing. Your review is worthless. I don't need your review because I got the same info from skimming the book.
Right. And that's the thing is why I said that if you want sort of a test for a YouTube channel, go and see if they reviewed any of the Rollmaster editions or any of the Iron Crown Enterprise games. Because if you skim through that book, you're still going to know absolutely nothing about how that game plays.
Yep.
And if you know the game, just go check out the YouTubers you watch. If they've covered it, you'll be. I think 9 out of 10 failed the test.
Yeah, they always do, and because with Rollmaster in particular, if they only skim the rules and they never play it, they're going to give it a bad review. They're going to say, "Oh, I just couldn't even understand this."
Right, but in essence, and what's funny is Rollmaster is probably the easiest game to learn to play at the table. There's only one D100 die roll for everything in the game. It all is on the result. It's very easy to teach. The rules are terrible with their organization. There's especially with like second edition Rollmaster and such. There's pieces of this and that all over the place, and if you're just reading the book, you'll never understand it.
That's probably my bias because back in the early 80s, my exposure to the Rollmaster was all the different little box sets. You had the arms law and claw law, and then you have spell law, and then you have character law, and then I was like, I don't want to have to buy 7 different box sets to play your stupid
right. So if you take somebody that just looks through the books, even if they read the books cover to cover, it's one of those games that does not become apparent of how it plays until you get it on the table and actually play it. That's why I said it's you can read Rollmaster all day long until you actually play it. You won't know what to say about it, and that's why I said go check YouTubers what they have to say. And you'll be surprised how many are just telling you information they heard from somebody else.
Right, exactly. Whatever you it's just something you heard. You went and read some blog posts about it. And that's part of the I don't know, the current thing treadmill. It's that I've already experienced it a little bit myself with my minor channel. Of there's this sort of I got a Kickstarter coming up. Oh, can it be on the rotation? And it's become this kind of YouTube stream tour circuit for whoever.
Well, YouTube's an echo chamber.
They're going to go on, You see it. They do the circuit of the 20 channels that I follow, or all my
Right,
friends.
and YouTube is very much an echo chamber as well, and that's one of the reasons I don't watch a lot of gaming stuff on YouTube, because it's a natural thing that's going to happen to you. You're going to see this person's doing this that seems to be successful for them. Maybe I should incorporate a little bit of that, or this and that. But essentially, YouTube becomes just this massive echo chamber. That's why I started the Random Encounter show to talk about solo gaming. That, hey, it's not what's just being portrayed by the major channels over solo gaming. It's actually much deeper and more personal than some board game experience on the table when you don't have players to play with.
Right, right. And again, it's such a natural outgrowth that there are so many merits to extol on solo playing. Not the least of which is, man, hey, man, it's always your turn. The game is always going at exactly the speed you want it to. I'm never
Right.
bored waiting for my turn. Right.
The only advantage of group gaming has over solo gaming is nothing but the social aspect. And if you're antisocial like I am, that's even a plus.
You don't even miss it, right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, come on, think of over most of the players that you've had in your lifetime. Were their ideas really that good? Are you missing out all that much by them not being at the table? Yeah. But and that's another thing, though. Another major benefit is with solo play, I do not feel like my players have me hostage. Well, I got to do what the players want, or else I'm not going to get to play. No, you guys do what I want, and I'm
there
hosting
you go.
my
You're
game
the game
this
master.
night. And if nobody shows up, guess what? I'm playing solo. I still get to play, even if everybody cancels on me. I don't have those. Oh darn, no game for me tonight. Everybody canceled, or the DM couldn't.
Yeah, and like I said, with group gaming, it's the social aspect, and I think about my groups that I've had throughout the years. The gaming, I can barely remember some of it, but it was the experiences with the group and with the people outside of the gaming is the most memorable parts.
So for you, it's not the gaming that was the great part; it was the friendships.
Like I said, that when you're a solo gamer, if you really get into solo gaming and figure it out, instead of just taking the off-the-shelf kind of experience with it, that the only thing you'll be missing versus a group game is only the social aspect. But if you think about group gaming and the social aspect, your greatest memories around that you don't remember at the table. With my group of friends,
I don't know that my personal experience lines up with that necessarily. When I think back on my group gaming experiences, most of my positive memories are directly in game.
Okay, well, it may
like
be
stories
different
that happened in the game.
Yeah, for me, I've only group game with people that I already was friends with, if that makes sense. Right. So I've never sat down at a table and ran a game for strangers, so to speak.
I have, and it's still this kind of the same experience to me when I think back on like my high school group. We called ourselves the Four Horsemen. Because there was four of us, and those we got together every weekend to play. And those guys, I think back on that gaming, and still, while great friends, many of which I'm still, most of them I'm still in contact with today, but they, my really positive memories when I think of the gaming really do hinge around some of the war stories that I can recall, and things.
Like one of my favorite memories when 3rd edition came out. We formed a little gaming group in high school for 3rd edition. The number one memory that stands out to me was the player's handbook. I think was released in September, and then the monster manuals and Dungeon Master. I think that came out in either October or November. And for that day, we planned it out. We skipped school. We got in my buddy's like 82 Honda Accord with the hatchback on it. And we had to drive to the town next to ours. We didn't have a game store. So we had to drive over there. So we ditched school. We slid out of school when no one noticed. We went to this game store. On the way back, we got a flat tire on this piece of junk car. Of course, he had no spare and he had no jack. And who the heck are we going to call? Because everybody we know is currently in school are going to berate us for being skipping school. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it turned into this whole adventure of trying to figure out how the hell we were going to get back to school before somebody realized we weren't there. I mean, it surrounds gaming, but that's what I'm saying. The social aspect, some of the most memorable stuff to me wasn't necessarily game moments, but they were with the people I gamed with.
Right. I can get that. I do have plenty of fond memories, but I also at the same time I don't get it. That to me is like saying you have more fond memories of standing in line waiting for the movie than actually watching the movie.
Yeah.
A little foreign. No, we're coming up. We got about 25 minutes on the clock here. And the last thing I wanted to touch on and use up the rest of the show for this is your newest aspect to the channel and the show, which is the vintage retro video games.
Okay. What do you want to dive into?
Now, this is such a rabbit hole. You've exposed to me like a whole new world. You're doing stuff like I never even heard of most of these things.
Talking about exposure, remember that whole frontal nudity you got? What time?
Oh, yeah, seriously, man. It's a good thing it was a members only chat. Now, okay, so
yeah.
For context, I'll introduce it. One of the things you've started doing for the members, behind the scenes, is you've gotten real heavy into the retro video gaming, which is like going to flea marts and stuff like, secondhand shop, thrift stores, getting old consoles, getting the actual old hardware when you can, old cartridges, and also setting up emulators on modern computers so you can stream this old school classic video game. Mostly stuff from the 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, let me jump in and we'll correct you a few things. First off, no emulators.
No emulators. You haven't used.
No.
I swore you set up an emulator for one of them. That's not how that works.
I may have used a Retro Freak for one of the things, and the reason it's a piece of hardware, but it's emulation based. So it was, but it's a separate piece of hardware. You can put the cartridges in, etc. My focus. I guess I have to step back a little bit. Before 2016, all through the late 90s and early 2000s and stuff, I would clean out flea markets and yard sales and stuff because I didn't necessarily go for the new systems. I find it much more beneficial to collect for the older stuff and really explore those consoles, libraries, and such. But the retro gaming scene blew up big time around consoles especially, and the prices just kept going astronomical to the point where it's not fun for me to collect this anymore.
Yeah.
So I sold out the collection I had. It literally, I'll send you a picture of it if you want to see it sometime, but it literally filled an entire room from like floor to ceiling, shelves everywhere. It was stuff I had amassed for years.
Okay.
16-bit era, 32-bit era consoles, mostly 8-bit era, etc. But I sold all that off. And in the last couple of years, I've got very interested in collecting things that I never collected for before. And it's mainly your early computers. So, like we're talking the TI-99 4A, the Atari 8-bit line, the Commodore 64. One of the things we do a lot is the MSX line out of Japan that never came here.
Right.
And the computers, they offer such a varied and much larger library of games compared to the game consoles of the time, that it's because I'm a big fan of 2D gaming. 8-bit and 16-bit gaming is my jam. I've always loved it. I've never stopped loving it.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Why? What it makes that the primo gaming experience? Because to be honest, I'm very disillusioned in the PS4 and PS5 eras. I have not liked what I've seen from newer consoles. I like retro games.
We were trying some of the old 8-bit RPGs on the MSX, and it came to me really, and I thought about it. And I said it when we were playing. I said, one aspect that I love about these older games is that yes, it's a video game, but they all have their own little worlds, and not everything's explained in a whole lot of great detail. So you can't help but giving your imagination some life in those worlds as you play.
Right. You're thinking,
So
well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Why would that be? Right. And then your mind
yeah,
starts filling in the blanks, and before you know
yeah.
it,
So I get caught up into like a what do we play, like Ease 1 and 2 and 3 and Zack and such. These worlds that they're, even though they're 8-bit games, they're quite large for 8-bit worlds. And they
Mhm.
have a lot of different stuff going on, and not everything's explained. So you're like, well, what is that enemy and what is it doing here? Because the world sort of has a logic to it. Maybe you don't understand the logic, but there is a logical reasoning why things are where they are. You'll probably figure that out later. But I can't help it that my imagination just fires off constantly while exploring these little worlds. Whereas I go on like the PlayStation 4 or 5, everything's in great detail. Nothing's left to the imagination.
Gosh, I that had not occurred to me, but thinking about it right now, that does seem to match my experience. And the games that I tend to like I mentioned, I still like Skyrim, and that's because somehow that game still leaves some room in the imagination for me. I don't
Right.
maybe it's just that I like that world, the Tamriel world, but
But
that
yeah, that's
same emergent sort of your mind starts filling in the blanks. Is that not how solo role playing works for you
right.
too? It's
Right.
exactly the same thing.
Exactly. Right. So if I'm playing solo and I roll up something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I decide to put it there, my imagination now has to fill that gap of why it exists where it is.
Mhm.
Same thing I get when I'm playing a video. I could play Super Mario Brothers, for example, the original, 8-bit Nintendo game. Think about, you've got this whole little world there. Why are the turtles and mushrooms and stuff so angry?
Right. Why? How did this mess get started? Right.
Are,
Eh,
are, are, are they really angry, or is Mario the bad guy? Hey, we're going in their world and we're just killing everything. You
right.
know,
We're terrorists.
That's but we got to save the princess. But yeah, it's stuff like that on different levels where I like video gamings where it's on both sides of the screen. They're giving me a story and I'm creating a story versus I'm just watching a story.
Single player walkthroughs are a sort of solo gaming experience. Well, that's also one of those things. Like, I do appreciate that what there are times still, I still prefer video games, but in general, there's so many times where I would actually still just prefer to sit down a solo role play than play a video game because it's so
Sure.
much more versatile and interesting.
Right. My biggest distinction deciding between do I want to do some video gaming or do I want to do some solo tabletop gaming is time. If I've got 30 minutes to an hour, I want to do some video gaming or something. When I sit down and start soloing, I've sat down for 12 hours before and not really realized it.
Yeah,
It's
that's see, I don't have that kind of endurance anymore. Like, I know when I do a solo session, I'm at max going to have 3, maybe 4 hours if I really push it.
well,
And
that's
generally,
more of that's more my typical of solo
yeah,
gaming. But what happens if the story really just starts forming and you're really deep into it, and it's just like a good novel? You've got to know what happened next.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
you're reading the Lord of the Rings and Gondor's being attacked by the hordes of Mordor, and the king of the steward of Gondor is filling up a room with wood and oil and going to burn himself. Can you really stop reading right there?
no, you can't. No, that's absolutely true. And very true to the experience. Like, sometimes you get caught up. Well, and that it's funny, but I have exactly the opposite experience from time to time where I'll hit a point and something really huge like that happens, and I go, as a character, as the gamer, I go, well, shoot, I don't know exactly how I want to handle this. I'm going to pause and
Well,
leave
that's the
that
right
for
thing to
a
do.
few days or a week and just really allow the ideas to fester in my
That's
brain.
exactly what to do. That's what that. If you would have asked me what you should have done, that's exactly it. You pause and let it come together.
Step away and think about it for a little bit, and
But
oftentimes the random idea that pops in my head, I go, oh, that's it.
brings it all
That's what
together.
I want to do.
Yeah, it's an exploration of imagination. But like I said, sometimes you sit down and it all just comes together on you, and it's just flowing. And that's where you don't want to say, "Oh, I need to stop. I need to jump up and stop," because then you come back and it was just that moment in time you had. It's gone now.
Yes. Yeah. There's many times. Well, and it's kind of funny in general. I tend to be the kind of gamer, whether I'm GMing for other people or soloing, generally the first thing that pops into my head is usually my best idea. A lot of people deride that kind of play style, but it's actually the best one for me. If I sit
Right.
down and labor over an idea for a week, it's going to be worse than the thing that I just threw out off the top of my head. That somehow, for some reason, is usually my best ideas.
Right.
So so it's actually, but there are times where, oh wow, this is such a critical, pivotal moment for the character. Like this is really going to change the trajectory of my game. I'm going to take my time and really savor this decision and consider which way I want to go.
Right. So that's the way I handle it as well. So, like I said, for me, it's mostly what do I have time for? What do I have going on in life? Because I enjoy everything from running some theater of the mind RPG gaming. I
Right.
enjoy, as you can see behind me over here, we've got tons of miniature terrain, etc.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
You do.
enjoy sitting down and fleshing out the world with some strategic skirmish style combat, etc. So it all depends on what I have in mind, but then I have to look and say, okay, well, what's the wife doing? What's the kids doing? What's the cats and dogs doing? What's all these joys of my life doing?
Right.
Because
Everybody's in bed asleep. I got a few hours. Kind of
and
thing.
and you guys, the Random Encounter Army knows I don't sleep. That's exactly why. It's everybody go to bed real quick. I'm going to be up all night gaming.
And we wouldn't have it any other way, man. We wouldn't have it
Yeah.
any other way.
So
Now,
I think one of our next challenges is I'm going to try to do a 72-hour live stream at some point of some kind of gaming. I don't know what, a mix of gaming, whatever, but I'll let you guys see how it really goes with no sleep.
your sanity is questionable to begin with. I mean, if we start getting you all sleep
Agreed.
deprived, this is going to be a very profitable stream. I mean, we definitely need to monetize that.
There you go.
Well, and now
But
we're joking around and everything. We've been having a good time. But one of the things I did want to touch on, which surprised me as I got to know you better personally, is your education level. Because you come off as a very plain spoken and perhaps even simple person, but you have a doctorate in theology, is it?
yes, that's one of my doctorates.
What is the other doctorate?
Religion.
Religion.
I've got my doctorate. It's through seminary, but I've taken coursework with Harvard, UAB, Bar Ilan, and Israel, etc. And yes, I am very plain spoken, purposely so.
So, I mean, I appreciate the lack of pretension for sure. And that's one of the things that made getting to know you better such a pleasant surprise. It's something that you don't talk about that part of your life very much, but it really shows that, well, to me, it clearly demonstrates that you're a deep thinker. So I'm not getting, midwittery when I listen to you talk about things.
No, when I made the decision to do a YouTube channel, I could have easily went into the more academic aspects of my life through my education and work and such. But I really wanted to do something I enjoyed. And that was talk about my hobbies that I've
Right.
had for almost my entire life with gaming. And so I try to keep it on gaming. I don't dive off into I mean, if you watch the show, I dive everywhere. Yeah. I don't use a script. It's just straight off the tongue, right out of the heart is what I have to say.
Right.
So
It's
it's
sincere.
so we go off into some strange places and whatnot, but I do try to keep it mainly on just gaming and the enjoyment of the hobbies,
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
I don't see people who speak about gaming as being the people I want to hear my politics from, or that I want to learn anything about religion from, or anything else. I'm going to go to more specialized places for those type of
Yeah.
entertainment, if you will.
Infotainment, whatever you want to call it. So the question I wanted to wrap on and allow you to pontificate a bit as you see fit is, how has that education informed, changed, or guided your gaming life, your hobby life?
Well, number one, I think it all stems from a love of books. Yeah, as far as tabletop gaming, RPGs and such goes, to seeking higher education and such. I think it all stems from an early love of books and reading books.
And
So
was that
in
from youngest age? You've always been a reader from when you first learned?
from the earliest age, my grandmother, she was very much an avid reader of books and a champion of literature. And she basically, her and my grandfather basically raised me as a kid on their farm. And of course, she brought me into her love of books and literature, that by the time I was 4 years old, I was already reading at a level that was, I would say, beyond second, third grade, as far as the reading level goes. And she made me fall in love with things like fantasy and such. In fact, we would read books like Sinbad and such, or the Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, the Arabian Nights kind of literature. And she would make it real for me. She'd go bury a little treasure chest in the flower bed and draw it a map. And I would she'd give me a towel, which was my flying carpet, and I had to go on these adventures around the yard. And I'm like 3 or 4 years old. And eventually
Yep.
I would take the little garden spade and dig up the little treasure chest, and she'd put some fake jewelry or something in there. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's treasure. See, man,
Yeah.
that's magic.
Yeah, for sure. So that really interested me. That gave me a love of books. And like I said, just a love of fantasy in general. Of course, I was attracted to tabletop role playing games and other things. But as far as the education have an effect on my gaming table, it makes you, when it comes to my areas of specialty, I started my university career at UAB in anthropology with a focus on archaeological field methods. And
Okay.
from there, I really sat down and I centered myself and I said, what most interests me about the history of the world? And I said, it's really the religions of the world that really interests me the most, because out of all of the historical things we can go to, history mostly preserves the stories, myths, and peoples that came before us, instead of just random artifacts and things that we can associate a personal value to. So there I went into theology and religious studies, and I specialized in ancient religions of the Near East, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Sinai, what we would call modern day Israel, etc.
Okay.
And
What now, besides like the obvious ones, the Abrahamic ones, what are the religions from that part of the world that were part of your body of study?
well, you had the various cults of places like Babylon. Well, really, when we think of Near Eastern religion, you can't think of it as an organized religion or religion so much. It's
Various
more of
cults and
it's
stuff.
it's more of cults that share similar values and cultural mythology with each other, that formed up, and later they would become organized, especially under the Egyptian religion system with the priesthoods and such. We
Okay.
see the same thing with various other places, like the Assyrians. They conquered Babylon and modern day Israel down into the northern kingdom of Egypt. They picked up a lot of the cultic beliefs and religious beliefs, and they sort of blended it in to their own and created an organized religion from it. So a lot of it's
And
finding a piece here and a piece there. Like when you read the modern day Bible, you'll read of like the evil gods, Baal and Asherah and such like that. Well, those are easily traced back to those cults, because you had cults of Baal.
yeah.
In several of the Near East locations, from Babylon to Egypt. But when it comes to affecting the game table, I think it causes me to, with my campaign worlds, to really consider the religion more so than I used to. And I think a lot of people sort of skim over the religion in their games. But if
Yes.
you think about humanity, religion's probably the strongest guiding force within the peoples of the world. You know, even here in the earth, we've got people that are willing to blow themselves up in the name of God
Yes.
and do all
And
kind of crazy stuff.
ironically, the biggest religious zealots on the planet appear to be the people who here in America say they don't believe in God even. They're atheists, commies.
Sure, it's so people's religious beliefs are faith beliefs. If you don't like religion, what you
Yes.
place faith in, what you believe, and you say that's your determining light, that's one of the most important factors I see for a campaign setting. You know, a lot of people just throw elves or elves. Well, what do the elves actually believe in? That's going to determine culturally what those elves are about and make them an individual set of elves and such. So yeah, it's oftentimes skimmed over, but for a deeper experience with campaign settings and such, adding religion and the effects of religion to the people in the settings can give you so much flavor and history that it's beyond belief. Just that little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is an adjacent conversation to D&D is actually just the Wild West with medieval trappings.
I
So
agree.
true. It's
Keep
that
on the
default
borderlands.
borderland. Yeah, keep on the borderlands.
Yeah,
It is the
did I talk about
quintessential
that?
setting.
Yeah, I think I talked about it. What was that rule system I got? Gunslinger. And I covered it and I said, hey, I ran Keep of the Borderlands with Gunslinger. It's an OGL Wild West or Weird West rule
Yep,
set.
yep.
And I did a campaign of a few adventures using Keep of the Borderland. I just swapped it over to Western characters. And yeah, I agree there with Tag.
Yeah,
But think
that's
about how
what
important
I
that is to our own world and how important it would be to the peoples in your campaign world. So,
exactly. And that's one of those things that, we're uh in my own way and in my own religious explorations, I came to very much the same conclusions that the religions depicted in games, particularly in the D&D worlds, were very shallow, superficial,
yeah,
even kind of
yeah,
moronic. Like, it's obvious. Oh, fish. I guess there. He's a god of fish. He does water breathing or what? No,
they
there's
gone.
yeah, right. And it's like, oh, I guess he's just into fish. No, actually, there's so much more that could be mined from the symbology of Dagon as a god. Right. It's not just
Right.
there are other aspects to be.
But one of the things I think is most skipped over is not necessarily the religions of the setting, but the cultural impacts of the religions of the setting.
Oh my God, yes, exactly what Tag was saying here. Like medieval culture and society was very much the way it was because of the historical impact of Christianity. Is that like an off
And
base
also,
statement?
and you have to argue the impact of things like Islam. Look at how Europe fundamentally changed greatly after the Crusades and the exposure to Islam.
Yeah,
Look at what the
absolutely.
Jews during the Moorish invasion, when the Jews came into Spain along with the Islamic invaders. Look at their cultural impacts and the way that they practiced medicine and kept records and such. The Europeans picked up on that. So, like I said, it's you have to look that there's more than just that. Okay, they follow this religion. What is their impact? What's the religion's impact, and how does it impact those around them?
And being bro adjacent, I have to also mention the weird trepidation to have Christianity, but ignore all of its layers and impacts. And that is for you're not on X, so you probably don't know the bros at all. But they're more like 1E fanatics, and most of them are outspoken Christian men themselves, and they have espoused many, many times that the core kind of fundamental morality alignments in the original games, that lawful, neutral, chaotic, that's fundamentally Christian. Like that is a fundamentally Christian worldview. It's a
Well,
fantasy version of Christian morality that we're playing out,
right.
which is like
I'm
chivalry
when it
and,
comes to social media and such, I'm very ignorant on a lot of movements and things. I don't partake
oh
in it
yeah,
so much.
that's
And Second
Yeah,
off
the
is
bros are not worth knowing.
there you go. And second off, I'm an Orthodox Christian, so I'm really an outlier because with Protestant Christianity and such that we see online all the time, I have barely anything in common with that.
It's really interesting too, is that historically I've heard so much about the Catholic versus Protestant divide, right? But very little, I didn't even know until well into my adult life that orthodoxy was its own distinct thing. I just thought it was another kind of Protestantism.
No, Orthodoxy is the Church of the Apostles. The
Wow.
Catholic Church was Orthodox until they decided to have the papacy and change the Filioque and do their own thing in 1054 AD. They left us.
Right. All right, we are at the time, sir. Deathstalker 5, this has been a fantastic conversation. We have been all over the place, and I would like to extend to you this opportunity to wrap us up with some words of wisdom. Dare I say wisdom? What would you like to leave our loving audience with, Deathstalker?
When it comes to gaming, I've said it several times here. Always remember that your game is what happens on your table. Play it the way you enjoy it, and however you enjoy it, don't let any of these morons try to change you.
Now that message will resonate with the bros. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another groundbreaking episode of Jawin with Jack. You cannot find this quality of guest anywhere else, and I thank you all for coming along with the ride.
Cheers, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next week, your next Monday evening show, we will be back. Be there.